Hey guys, Virgin Vinyl with you again today. It's a little bit hot outside today, so I thought I'd do it inside with the shutter down. Continuing on with the death metal theme of the last few days. As I mentioned a couple of videos ago, there was when I picked up my Malevolent Creation 10 Commandments album from Listenable Records. I picked up two other albums, which was Gorguard's The Erosion of Sanity and Immolation, Dawn of Possession, an absolute classic death metal album. It's a really nice reissue on, if I can just get it out, on the, what do they call it? Marbled. I think it's, marbled, red marbled vinyl there. Let's take it out of the, I always change the sleeve because, you know, with a lot of these reissues, they give you a paper, sleeve, and it's shit, it leaves residue all over the record, and it's flimsy and just doesn't look protected. So I got some of these, I'm always trying to pick up these anti-static cases, slips or whatever. I don't know, what are you supposed to call these? Anyway, I find that that's much better and takes care of the records much better. A little while ago, I picked up some cleaning stuff, and I started cleaning some of my records. I was also having some issues with skipping with my record. All my records were skipping, and I couldn't figure out what was going on there. As you know, this channel is called Virgin Vinyl for a reason, because I'm a virgin when it comes to vinyl, and so I've slightly popped that cherry now though, because since November last year I have bought about 100 records, and I'm starting to learn. So I've cleaned some records now. I've recalibrated my turntable so it's not skipping anymore, which is fantastic. I'm a happy camper at the moment when it comes to my vinyl. Like I mentioned, I showed you on the Death Symbolic one, I was talking about the three albums, the albums that I got, and I didn't have that much to say about them. That's why I haven't made videos about them before. But I thought, you know what, why not? Because, even if it's a shorter video, I think it's important to give a shout out to some of these classics, Immolation's a really interesting band because they're so fucking heavy. And this album in particular is really, it kind of stands out from the rest of their catalog, in my opinion, because it can't, even though you can sort of hear the genesis of, the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like the sort of proto-immolation form is here, but it's like, it's really on the next album and going forward that you really get that sort of bizarre, somewhat dissonant, really sort of angular and unusual riffs that sort of are, and just total bludgeoning brutality that sort of is the Immolation brand, that's the sound that we've come to know from them. On this album, it's, this is 1991, and it kind of fits in a little bit more with that sort of, Florida death metal sound. Even though this is from New York, if it came out of Florida, it wouldn't have surprised me, put it that way. That being said though, it definitely does have its own unique characteristics, and the Immolation sound is coalescing here, but it hasn't fully coalesced, if you know what I mean. Like, it's there, it's recognizable. You've got Bob Vigner and Tom Wilkinson, who both came from the band Rigor Mortis, who were another really cool band from Yonkers, New York, who, you know, all they did was demos, but those demos are quite quite well loved in the underground, or were anyway back in the day. And they went on to form this band with Ross Dolan, of course, fronting, and Craig, I always forget his last name. Who's on the drums? Smilowski, Craig Smilowski on the drums. So that made up the lineup. That's the inner sleeve. You get the lyrics there. You get a bit more artwork, a little sort of red picture of the band there, thank yous and all of that good stuff. That's kind of the format of these listenable records. I can't get it back in. I'm shaking all over the place. Keep missing it. There we go. Duh, getting retarded. Anyway, you know, Immolation are like, you know, it took them quite a long time to really become the sort of death metal juggernaut that they are today. They're kind of like, you know, when you think about like when you think about death metal bands that have been consistently great throughout their whole career and released a shit ton of albums, you know, Cannibal Corpse is the obvious top dog. You know, Cannibal Corpse has never done a bad album. It's arguable, you know, like some people criticize Cannibal Corpse because they kind of do the same album over and over again, but it's always good. It's always good death metal. I mean, if you put it on, it's never shit. It's always fucking good. I mean, I can sort of understand. Like that's why, you know, that's why I never bought all their CDs back in the day, and that's why I probably wouldn't buy all their records. But I will buy a select bunch of them through the years, my favorite ones for sure, because I think they're still good. And I think another band that really fits that really limited amount of bands that can say that is Immolation. Immolation never has put out a bad record. They're all really, really good. In fact, I really like a whole lot of their records. Close to a World Below is probably my favorite after this one. Sorry, I've just got something going on here for a second. Sorry, just gotta get this person to leave me alone. All right, bugger off, I'm doing a video. So yeah, I mean, Failures for Gods is really good. Here and After is really good as well. What's the one with the statue on the cover? Majesty and Decay, I really like that one. Unholy Cult is really good. And like from the newer ones, Atonement was really good. And I actually really like the latest album that they did. What was that called? Acts of God, I think. All of them are really good. I don't think they ever really let up. They had a couple of albums there in the middle which are a bit samey, I guess, but they're not shit. They're still good. You put them on. Maybe they're a little bit more background listen. But for me, yeah, I think for me, like my two favorite albums from Immolation would be Dawn of Possession, because for me, like my favorite era of death metal is really that late 80s, early 90s, that sort of first and second generation of it. And so this really fits into that. And then I think my other favorite would be Close to a World Below, because that's sort of like, that I think is the best album that embodies what their actual sound would be. And the sort of, just the songs on that album are just so pulverizing. So I'd like to get that on vinyl as well at some point if I can. But here, you know, every song on here is a dead set classic. You know, what have we got here? I'm always shit with song names. Got a memory like a fucking sieve. My other problem as well with death metal and with a lot of albums is that, like, for most of my life, I tended to listen to albums on my Walkman. Very little time would I actually spend listening to it on sound systems. I mean, there would be some times, but Like from the time I was a teenager, I always had a Walkman plugged into my head. You know, I always was walking around, walking the streets, riding my bike around, like, you know, whenever I was on the bus going anywhere, or, you know, or the other place would be in the car. So like, that's why I'm pretty shit when it comes to like a lot of the details, like song names and stuff. Like some of my friends over the years, I'm always amazed that they that they know all the song names. And you know that thing of like where people go, if you're a real fan, name 3 songs. I'm like, I've been listening to this album for fucking 20 years or 30 years or something, and I fucking can't remember the names of the songs, you know, because most of the time I wasn't looking at the back of the record. I'm just hearing them come into my Walkman or on the car stereo, you know. That's just a little of my own history there. Who gives a shit? Like Into Everlasting Fire is incredible. The title track, Dawn of Possession, Internal Decadence is sick. I mean, really, all of this is amazing, you know. No Forgiveness is great, Burial Ground, A Despondent Souls. It's like a perfect death metal album. It's one of the truly great death metal albums, and it's one of my personal favorites. So, you know, since I started this journey of vinyl collecting, you know, and rebuilding my collection after I lost all my CD collection, you know, I've found that, like, well, first of all, it's super addictive, and I spent way too much money, way too quick, way beyond my budget, and so now I'm like, ugh, you know, and I've had to really sort of pump the brakes a bit, but I'm so like, I just want to keep buying, but I've got no money to do that, so I've got to be a bit careful. But I'm also trying to balance, like, okay, like I love my death metal, and I love my jazz rock, and I love my prog, and it's so hard sometimes because I don't know which direction to go in. I'm sort of, oh fuck, I can only buy 1 or 2 records, and there's 10 here at the shop I want to buy, you know, and it's like, fuck, you know. So like, it's funny, when I started this, I was assuming that most of the records that I would have in the beginning would be death metal, but actually it's turned out that most of the stuff I have now is jazz rock and fusion, and prog. But thankfully, I am starting to amass some death metal and some classic metal as well, and so that's cool, and hopefully that keeps growing. I'm going over to the States in July. I've already got 30 records, but most of them are jazz rock, fusion, and some prog. I haven't bought any metal yet, but they're all sitting at my dad's place waiting for me. I'm going to visit my dad, who lives in Key West, Florida. So hopefully while I'm in the States, when I'm up around Miami and West Palm Beach and places like that, I'm gonna go and do some shopping. If I can't find anything, then I'll order some metal from, you know, Hell's Headbangers, or just from Amazon or Walmart, or wherever the fuck you guys buy records over there. Any Americans, if you're watching, you can point me in the right direction. If you're in Florida, even better. If there's any Floridians watching this, can you recommend to me any bricks and mortar shops that have good metal selections? Or any, like, just good record shops in general that have like killer selections of all sorts of music, and, you know, preferably not ones that, you know, want you to chop off your arm as payment. You know, everything's so fucking expensive these days. But any advice you can give me, please put it down in the comments. Let me know, and I'll go and check it out when I'm there. What else can I say about these guys? I mean, these guys are still going. And you know, like what I was saying before about them kind of being like Cannibal Corpse, in that they've done so many albums, and they're all consistently great. You know, in many ways, like on a technical level, they sort of get better, actually. Like if you listen to Acts of God, some of the shit on there is really, really like clever and cool and interesting, you know, from a musical point of view, and definitely worth checking out. If you haven't, if you're into Immolation, and I would recommend checking it out because it's very good. but what's interesting is that Cannibal Corpse is kind of they've been around a long time, and how long can you do that? How long can you keep going doing that kind of music? It'd be interesting to see how many more years they've got in them. And kind of like the next band that sort of seems to be like the potential king of the death metal, underground death metal world, in my view, I think would be Immolation. I think like they're the ones who are going to carry it forth, but again, they're also, not spring chickens. So it'll be interesting to see how long these guys can go. I mean, these guys, Incantation is another band. Although for me, I never was really as big into Incantation. I know they sort of get lumped together a lot of the time. They've shared members and toured together, and they're good buddies and everything like that. But I don't know. I just never thought like Incantation. It was just, I don't know, like it just sounded like pulverizing without any music. I don't know, like it doesn't sound very enough. There's not enough music for me to sink my teeth into with that band, and I find it a bit boring, to be honest. Like I can handle the heaviness, but I just don't find the songwriting that compelling. These guys are close to equally as heavy as Incantation, but there's music in there that really grabs you. Don't get me wrong though, I'm not saying Incantation's shit. They're not shit. They're fucking pretty cool. It just never was like one of my top bands. So you're probably not going to see any Incantation records here. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else I can say about these guys. Fucking awesome band. Very, very cool. Be interesting to see how much longer they hang around and, what else they do over the years. But, this one, where it all began, is still my favorite. There's a nostalgia factor there, but I think it just fits into that era of death metal that sounds right to my ears. It sounds raw. It sounds like a real band playing in the room without all the studio trickery, without all the modern plugins and software and, the modern sounding drums and the modern sounding amp simulators, and to quantify everything, and all those fucking tricks that all the metal bands, and not just metal bands, every music that you hear these days is pumped, like every style is pumped through this filter of crap to make it sound unhuman and unreal. And not unreal as in, yeah, that's unreal. I mean like unreal as in not real, as in it sounds like a machine making music, like AI making music. And that's why when you listen to like these websites where they have AI music generators, some of it sounds like exactly like what you hear on the fucking radio. And I've even heard like some AI generated metal, and some of it's actually pretty convincing, It sounds like shit to me because I don't like the modern production sound that bands are using. I don't like all the tricks they're using because it sounds like they're stripping the humanity out of it. If you quantify and lock to the grid drums, that's not the drummer anymore. Now you're listening to a software program which has lined up every beat perfectly. That's not human. Humans don't do that. If you listen to an amp simulator, that's not an amplifier that's roaring at full volume with the mic next to it. It's not. It's something different. You're listening to a digital recreation of that. It's not the same. And I could go on and on and on. And the way things sound these days, I fucking hate it. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. Modern production, modern ways of recording, even though like it's given us all this freedom to like not rely on the big studios and everything like that. And a part of that is cool. Like there's a part of that that's like, yeah, okay, people should have the people have all this creativity that they want to let out, but the software is cheating for them. In the past, you had to perform. You had to really perform. You had to nail your part. And like, how many death metal albums are there and demos and shit from back in the day where it is loose as fuck? And that's awesome. It sounds fucking awesome. It sounds like You know, one of my favorite albums that I picked up over there is Mortem, the first Mortem album, Demon Tales. And the drumming is fucking loose as fuck. Like, yes, he's using what's it called? Triggers. He's using drum triggers, but it's not the triggered samples on which I'm not a fan of. But you know, at least it's the take. They're using the drummer's take, and he fucks up. You can hear it. You can hear it slow down and speed up, and you hear him in some of the parts where he's doing the double kicks, struggling to keep up. And I'm fine with that. I would rather that than everything be all fucking perfect. You know, I would much rather that. So, you know, here on this album, you get that. You get that raw feeling of a band playing in the fucking studio, ripping it out, roaring the speakers at fucking full volume, playing the drums hard. And you know, even though like a lot of these metal bands, they did use like kind of a form of drum trigger or sampling drum replacement, they at least weren't changing the actual performance. They were at least giving you, you know, if there was like lagging in time or something like that, that's what you got on the record, and that's human. That's the way it should be. Anyway, that's enough ranting out of me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.